Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder All Weather here. We still have northwest flow setups continuing over the next several days, but we are starting to see subtle signs of that changing as we head into early next week. So let's take a look at the satellite picture this morning, and we've got several areas of convective complex, one highlighted across Nebraska as well as into portions of Oklahoma, but a more intense convective complex that moved through areas of central Texas last night into the morning hours, and that really intense squall line that moved through the Houston Metroplex with some 2 to 3 inch per hour rainfall rates and a lot of intense lightning. There's a lot of strong wind gusts, and that's moving through southbound through New Braunfels back into Austin. That'll eventually swing further south this afternoon to San Antonio, and that also will swing further east into Louisiana as well as into portions of Mississippi. But yesterday was yet another active day, compliments of the northwest flow setup. So we had some convective availability that kind of blew up across areas of eastern Colorado. In fact, Denver, man, they had some pretty intense hail out there, some tennis ball, even some baseball size hail within the Denver Metroplex. And that continued to dive southeastbound with more high winds and some larger hail within the Texas Panhandle. And then yesterday we had those several tornadoes unfold, unfortunately, across Midland as well as into the Odessa region. Within fact, even one point, a tornado emergency was issued, actually for the first time ever for those areas into West Texas. And that continued in the overnight hours with a pretty intense squall line with very heavy rain continuing through the central Texas back into areas of Brownwood as well as into the Waco region. And then that same squall line went through the Houston Metroplex this morning. So, yeah, it was a very active day yesterday, and it's kind of already reloading for this afternoon. So here's the overall setup on the dew points. So yeah, we got the again classic dry line setup as we've got much drier air out west and much soupier air mass out east. And as the atmosphere bubbles up in the heat of the afternoon, we are expecting more showers and thunderstorms form right along this line. And we're also going to tap into the instability where that really hasn't been tapped into yet. So, yes, those places into Louisiana and portions of the deep South Texas down there in San Antonio. This air mass has been fairly worked over because that's where most of the energy has been over the last 24 to 48 hours. So those areas will likely try to recuperate, but definitely as we head into the heat of the afternoon, we've got that first convective complex that's highlighted across Houston this morning will continue to shift eastbound. So now those areas across Louisiana back into Mississippi as well as into Arkansas and western Tennessee, you're going to get the showers and thunderstorms while we see renewed sales grow into the heat of the afternoon. This is likely around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Right there along the dry line, we're going to start to see more convective complexes blowing up. Then they will form little isolated supercells along that dry line with some larger hail producers. Of course, further south back into the San Antonio region, where they have more or less been untapped as of so far. So if we take a look at what the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted on their morning update, kind of implies those areas where it have they'll have the convectibility. So right now it's going to be pushing into East Texas as well as into Arkansas, back into Louisiana and portions of Mississippi. And then there's a secondary complex that will likely form in the heat of the afternoon right here across eastern portions of Colorado, western Kansas, back into northern portions of New Mexico, into the Panhandle. Then we'll have that untapped energy with the higher dew points further south into San Antonio, back in say like the Del Rio region. Those areas that have been kind of unscathed with yesterday's activity will be get hit today with those additional showers and some severe storms as we bubble up the atmosphere with stronger damaging winds and some larger hail moving into that region. So if we take a look at the breakdown on the radar depiction, going into about 5-6 o'clock this afternoon, there's that convective complex that will likely be highlighted across Louisiana, back into Mississippi, Arkansas, western Tennessee, getting into Missouri. And we'll also have some more showers and thunderstorms hitting portions of eastern Nebraska, southeastern portions of South Dakota, as well as into areas of Iowa, back into Minnesota, while we'll start to see the initiation right along the dry line of some bubbling up the atmosphere, or some the I guess at least the initial point of the initiation, and that will likely intensify as we heat it up in the afternoon. So by like 10 o'clock, yes, we'll have another convective complex that highlights across the same region with the northwest flow back into the Texas panhandle with more showers and thunderstorms. Some of those could be larger hail producers, as this activity will continue to push further east back into Mississippi by then, eastern portions of Arkansas, as well as into areas of eastern Missouri, and then the further north complex will be highlighted across southern and central Minnesota, back into northern Wisconsin by then. But the next day, it again kind of reloads, and so those untapped areas that don't get hit for Saturday, as we head into deeper in the Saturday afternoon, will have your CAPE values, your convective available potential energy start to enhance again. So those areas will tap into some of those higher dew points. We'll start to see 3,000 and 4,000 CAPE values across this region, while we'll be waiting for another convective complex that will likely form again off the northwest flow. So we'll be looking for another yet dry line setup across the kind of the same areas that they're going to be getting hit today, across western portions of Nebraska, western Kansas, eastern Colorado, where areas of eastern New Mexico, right along the West Texas into the Texas Panhandle. And by the time Saturday rolls around, with areas that don't get hit today, will be a little bit more unstable, and that will allow the showers and thunderstorms to continue and not weaken as much as they push through Oklahoma and Texas, good part of Louisiana, and back into Mississippi as we headed to the heat of the afternoon Saturday. But yeah, basically we have the dry line setup that unloads again with more supercell thunderstorms likely bubbles up. So they're going to be having more convective complexes highlighted across this region. As we heat it up after 4 o'clock, likely towards sunset, we'll start to see more showers and thunderstorms. Some of those turning severe across this region, and those will continue to dive from the northwest to the southeast, complements of the northwest flow. So typically these are kind of overnight setups and the overnight events coming in off the Rockies down through Oklahoma. This is like around 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday night, Sunday morning, moving through Oklahoma, getting into portions of say Wichita Falls again, coming back into areas of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, while much of this activity is just kind of like light to moderate rain that will be highlighted across Ohio and portions of western Pennsylvania. But overall, for the next kind of 48 hours, this is what it looks like, where the most of the convective complexes will be. We'll start to see ridging really start to build across areas of much of the west, so that those areas continuing to remain dry, and not much activity is going to be taking place for that area. But it's mainly across east of the continental divide here, and that's where most of the instability will be, with that northwest flow as these continue to bubble up across that region and propagate from northwest to southeast. So yes, for those areas highlighted in purple and those reds, you're going to look for another 2 to 3 inches of rain, no question about it, back into Louisiana, into Mississippi, as well as into Alabama here, as getting into Arkansas with a little bit lighter amounts as you swing through the southern and central plains. And that's just the next 48 hours. So as we move through heading into your Sunday time frame, we'll see yet another area of low pressure center, this time maybe highlighted a little bit further north, right? This will be a tad bit further north, swinging into areas of western portions of Nebraska, back into the Dakotas. We'll start to see more convective complexes formed right along the dry line here, but by then more instability will pushed further north with that low pressure center. Now we'll have more unstable air across areas of Nebraska, back into South Dakota, as well as into North Dakota, and that will swing into Minnesota. And yes, we'll still have convective complex that form off the northwest flow on the southern tier, back into the Texas Panhandle again, back into those areas of West Texas, So by the time we heat it up in the afternoon, going into your Sunday night time frame, we'll likely look for activity across this region. Ridging will be still locked over, of course, big parts of the west, and then most of the convective complexes will be highlighted across the middle of the country, and they will continue to cross the northwest flow, bringing more rain showers and stronger thunderstorms to Oklahoma, back into northwest and northern Texas and east Texas. That will likely swing through Louisiana and Mississippi. But then going into Tuesday, we start to see subtle signs of changing. All right, so we'll basically work eventually this ridge of high pressure that's going to be dominating for much of the west is going to be slowly trying to win over, while much of the ridging into Mexico is going to be slowly pushing further north from the south, while at the same time we do have a little bit of a disturbance, more of a troughing inversion that's going to come and dive through a good part of the upper Midwest, and that's going to bring more unsettled weather and more instability across those regions, while much of the southern flank and much of the west will start to be influenced under that ridge of high pressure for those areas. So by the time we head into your Tuesday, that's the difference. We'll start to see subtle signs of change that'll eliminate or at least somewhat suppress the northwest flow. Complements of that ridging will start to build in, and of course that will only add to those higher dew points and higher heated values. Of course, this region is extremely wet, but that will put the convective complexes further north. So that's going to be highlighted across those areas, with this low pressure by then into Minnesota, back through the Ohio Valley, and getting into the Tennessee Valley with additional showers and thunderstorms heading into your Tuesday afternoon. And then, of course, by Wednesday, with that ridging taking place and complements of the higher dew points, the humidity values are going to be surging high across a good part of Texas where they just been rain socked as of late. So those heat indices are going to be bumping up in a big way, approaching the triple digits, now spreading all the way into Oklahoma. Because if you eliminate the rain aspect, that's just going to be heating up those areas across those regions and put the placement further north, with especially with that trough coming in from the northwest. So by the time we head into your Wednesday afternoon, there's the instability. We'll likely have those setups that will dive down from the northwest from Canada through the Ohio Valley, putting that instability across the Ohio Valley, getting back into Kentucky region by then, as well as into Carolinas, getting into West Virginia, and that'll eventually sneak western PA. By the time we head into Thursday, I think we'll be more into those areas across the mid-Atlantic region, while much of the ridging will start to be locked and loaded across the west and much of the deep south as well. That places the instability a little bit further north, and all the rain showers and thunderstorms further north as well, across Tennessee, back into Kentucky, going into West Virginia, those areas across the Northeast, heading into your Thursday. But overall, this will look like, as we head into Thursday, that ridge of high pressure will be building out west. It is going to be coming back with a vengeance across California and Nevada, back into Oregon, those areas across the Four Corners regions. It's going to be even hotter back for those areas into Texas. It's really the combination of the heat, humidity. It's not the actual temperature for say, but it's the humidity values are going to be sky high, with the higher dew, making the heat indices feel a lot higher than what actually the thermometer says, and it'll actually be in the cooler side, with that trough coming in. So overall, if you count between Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, this is where the rains will likely be. So it eliminates the northwest flow setups, at least for a short period of time, and puts the instability further north. So by the time we head through Wednesday, Thursday, into Friday morning, you're going to have those showers and thunderstorms highlighted across a good part of the upper Midwest, through the Great Lakes, as well as in the Ohio and Tennessee Valley, getting into the Mid-Atlantic, back into portions of the Northeast by then. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you do hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and catch my next update while I protect you for after the storm.